Hello, I'm Joanna Dunn. I'm a yoga teacher based in Leavenworth, Washington. And I'm here at the beautiful Sleeping Lady Mountain Resort to bring to you a gentle yoga practice that I have developed. It's a series that I do quite frequently with my students. It's very gentle, very accessible, nice way to just start your day or end your day. Primarily focused on the spine, the hips, and the legs. So we'll begin the practice laying on your back, onto your back, with your knees bent, soles of the feet to the floor, arms by your sides. And just give yourself a moment or two to let your spine settle. Sometimes when we first lay down, there can be some tension in the body. Just let things settle a little bit. And then begin to become aware of the back of the body against the floor. So feel the places where the back of your body touches the floor and where the back of the body pulls away from the floor, the curves of the spine, the mountains and valleys of your spine. Everyone's spine is a little different. So for some people, those peaks and valleys are more extreme than others. But just noticing for you, the weight of the pelvis, for example, the weight of the upper back or mid back, and the weight of the back of the head, and then noticing the places where the spine pulls away in the low back and in the neck and upper back. And then we'll begin with just a very easy, gentle movement, a pelvic tilting or pelvic rocking. The movement begins in the low back, where you press the low back down into the floor. So you take that space in the lumbar spine, you take it away. And then do the opposite. Press your tailbone down and arch your low back away from the floor. And then press your low back down again. And then press your tailbone down. And this is a really nice, easy movement to do if you have a sore low back. Working with this idea of reciprocal inhibition, which is something that happens in the body. When we contract muscles on one side of the body, it helps the opposite side of the body. The opposite side of the body automatically should relax. So as you press your tailbone down, feel the contraction of the muscles in your low back. And as you press your low back down, feel the contraction of the muscles in your belly that create this movement. So as you contract the front of the body, the back of the body relaxes. As you contract the back of the body, the front of the body relaxes. And as you become comfortable with the movement, you can begin to coordinate your breath. So you'll inhale as you roll your tailbone towards the floor, and exhale as you press your low back down. Make sure the legs stay fairly relaxed. There's no need to push into the feet or to contract. Sometimes we can get in the habit of contracting the glutes as we press the low back down. It's not necessary, just keeping the movement in the lower belly and in the low back. And then just one more repetition, and then rest for a moment. And then we'll include a little bit more of the spine by interlacing the fingers underneath the head. And for some people who are a little tighter in the upper body, myself included, as we take the arms overhead like this, there's a tendency already to start to go into a little bit of a back bend. And we're going to actually accentuate that by pressing the elbows towards the floor or into the floor. It depends on your flexibility if you can do that. And pressing the back of the head into the floor and taking the chin away from the chest. And you might find, as I am, that it's quite natural to then press the tailbone down as well. So as you come into this arch, you're in a nice, it's a small back bend, but it is a back bend. You're in a nice extension of the spine, contracting all the muscles in the back of the body. And then we'll do the opposite. Take the elbows together, cradle the head, lift the head off the floor, lift the shoulders off the floor. And as you lift your head and shoulders off the floor, also press your low back down and see if you can lift up a little higher. And then slowly, so it's a little bit like an American style sit-up. And then slowly, with control, lower back down. And as your head comes to the floor, go back to the arch. And then curl up. And again, we're going to start to coordinate the breath with the movement. So you'll inhale and arch and exhale and curl up. Use the breath to dictate the length of the movement. And it's nice if the breath is just a little bit longer than maybe your natural breathing pattern. And again, we'll just do one more arch and curl. Inhale and arch, exhale, curl up. And then as you lower down, just bring your arms back by your sides and rest. Then we'll move into the legs and the hips. You can start by drawing the knees in towards the chest, hugging the knees in towards the chest. And you'll probably notice that as you take your knees in towards your chest, that your low back flattens into the floor. So just continuing to have that a little bit of awareness of the shape of the spine relative to the floor underneath you. And we'll keep the right knee drawn in, but extend the left leg up towards the ceiling. And just begin to point and flex your left foot. And as you point and flex your left foot, get the toes involved so that as you flex your foot, you try to separate your toes out. And as you point your foot, your toes, you sort of squeeze the toes together. Waking up all those little muscles in the feet. And even if you can't separate your toes like I can't, just make the effort. Make the effort to separate your toes. And that alone does some good, waking up those muscles. Then turn that into a circular movement, the ankle. And this is usually where we get to hear a little snap, crackle, pop. Various memories in the ankle of rolled ankles, perhaps. Go a few times in each direction. Try to paint a really wide O shape with your toes. So really go slowly and make a big wide O shape. Then take your toes back towards your head, press out through your heel, and lower your left leg all the way to the floor. And I'm just noticing that as I lower my left leg to the floor, my lumbar spine comes back away from the floor a little bit. Continue to hug your right knee down towards you. And notice that in a very minor way, you're doing the splits. So the left leg is moving in one direction, the right leg is moving in the other direction. And now we're just going to rock the right knee forward and back a few times. Just forward and back. And you might notice a little response in the spine. The pelvis tends to rock back You might even notice that your left leg responds a little bit. And then turn that into a circular movement. And as you circle the knee, you can use one hand or both hands. So you circle the knee, focus your attention down into the right hip joint, and visualize as best you can that ball and socket joint and the nice lubrication that you're giving the joint as you circle the knee. Okay, then interlace your fingers behind your thigh onto your hamstrings. And we're going to continue to bend the elbows, and straighten the leg to whatever degree you're able to. For some people who have really tight through the back of the legs, you may not be able to straighten your leg all the way and still keep your fingers interlaced onto your hamstrings. But again, you're just going to bend and straighten. Keep drawing the thigh down towards you with your hands, even as you straighten the leg. So it'll pull away. It'll pull away a little bit, but just keep drawing it down and flex your foot as you straighten your right leg. Okay, and then next time you bend your right knee, we'll put the sole of the left foot on the floor and just cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Coming into, this is sometimes called the thread the needle or the number 4 stretch. And you interlace your fingers behind your left thigh. And if you straighten your left leg, you'll see the number 4 there. So you can bend the left knee again once you see the number 4. Just stretching, a little stretch for the outside of the right hip. We'll take hold of the right foot you can take it in your left hand, put your left foot back on the floor, or take hold of it with both hands. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that you keep hold of your foot. You begin to straighten your right leg. You may not be able to straighten it all the way. You're going to keep hold of your foot and just bend and straighten your right leg. And you can hold on to the toes. Some people like to take hold of the big toe with the index finger and middle finger. That's sort of a traditional way to hold on to the foot. But you can also try holding on to the arch, hold on to the outer foot, and try just changing it up. Try different ways of holding on to the foot. Try keeping the knee in. See as I'm keeping the knee in, my right hand, or dropping the knee out to the side. Do a few times both directions. For those of you who are very limber here, and maybe you're holding onto the big toe, you can extend the other leg out as well. Okay, and then next time you bend your right knee, just keep it in and extend your left leg out. If it's not already there, put your left hand onto your right knee, right arm out to the right. We're going to come into a twist, take the knee across your body into a supine twist. You can turn your head away and just let gravity do the work here. Take one more inhale, and as you exhale, roll back onto your back. Draw both knees in. Take your forehead for just a moment towards your knees. Sometimes when we come out of twists, our spine is a little crooked on the floor. So just lay the spine down carefully, and then stretch your legs out and just rest on your back for a moment. And as you rest on your back, feel into your right leg and compare and contrast what's happening with your right leg with your left leg. Just see how they feel different from one another. And then draw both legs up. Again, bring your knees in towards your chest. And we'll start on the other side. We'll even you out. So take the left leg in, extend the right leg up. Now, typically for most people, the right leg, when we do that compare and contrast, the right leg feels warmer, it feels longer, it feels more tied into the body. And you can be pointing and flexing your right foot if you're not already doing that. Get the toes involved. So try to separate the toes out as you flex your foot and point the toes. As you point the toes, squeeze the toes together. But back to that difference between the right leg and the left leg, I like to think of that as an experience of prana. Prana is life force energy. It's in Chinese medicine, it's called qi. And we did this series with the right leg, and we just distributed prana, energy, into the right leg. Now turn your pointing and flexing into a circular movement. So circling the ankle, making a nice wide O shape. And take your toes back towards your head, press out through your heel, and lower your right leg all the way to the floor. And again, just continue to hug your left leg down towards you. And then rock your left knee forward and back, bending the elbows, drawing the thigh down, and then rocking the leg away. And then turn that into a circular movement. Again, focusing your attention down into the hip joint. Interlace your fingers behind your left thigh onto your hamstrings. And continue to draw the left thigh down towards you, and then begin to straighten your left leg any amount. Bend and draw the thigh down towards you, and then try to keep the thigh as close to you as you can as you straighten your leg, and most likely it will pull away a little bit, at least. And the next time you bend your knee, bend your right knee as well. Put the sole of your right foot on the floor and cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Come into the number 4 stretch on the other side. If your hands get fatigued here, if your upper body gets fatigued from holding your right foot, just rest, put your right foot down for a bit, let your upper body rest, and then when you can, come back. And put the sole of your right foot on the floor. Take hold of your left foot with your hand or hands. And again, we're going to begin to just bend and straighten, keeping hold of the foot in whatever way works for you. And don't be afraid to be playful. And the next time you bend your knee, just keep hold of the knee, take it into your right hand, extend your right leg out, left arm can come out at shoulder height to the left. Take the knee across your body into a twist on the other side. You can turn your head away from the knee. Coming into a supine twist. One more inhale and exhale back onto your back. Draw both knees in just to even out the spine. Take your forehead towards your knees for just a moment. Head and shoulders back down. And then again, just stretch your legs out. Arms by your sides. And just see how your legs and hips are feeling now. And we'll do just a few movements with the legs, working with the legs together. So the first one is if we were seated upright, it would be called Baddha Konasana. You're going to bring the soles of the feet together. It's bound angle pose or cobbler's pose. You can lift your head and shoulders up if you need to wrap your hands around your feet. And then push your knees away from you. And that'll help you actually to lift up a little higher. And let your head and shoulders come back down as you come into happy baby pose. Turning the soles of the feet towards the ceiling, separating the feet and turning the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. Drawing the knees down, the thighs down on either side of the body towards the floor. Then just to get playful, you can straighten one leg and bend the other knee. And go side to side. Let yourself rock a little bit. And then straighten both legs. Again, you may be able to keep hold of your feet here as you straighten the legs. But if not, just release the legs and bring your hands to the inner thighs, supporting your legs with your hands. Or you can do it from underneath if that works better. And we're going to cross the left leg over the right very tight. So So really tightly wrapping the legs. For those of you who know eagle pose, it's kind of like eagle pose, but now instead of wrapping the feet towards each other, we're going to take the feet away from one another. Lift your head, reach forward, and take hold of the foot that's closest to each hand, coming into a supine version of Gomukhasana, or cow's face pose. If you're not able to get the one thigh on top of the other, it's also fine to just do this pose like this. Just like a seated cross-legged position on your back. Okay, and then take the legs wide apart. Come back to this is Upavista Konasana, wide-legged forward bend, but of course we're on our back. And then come to the other side. Right leg on top of the left. Gomukhasana, cow's face pose on the other side. Nice stretch for at least I feel it, in my outer right hip. Outer right hip. And again, take the legs wide. And then just bring the knees together. Put your feet on the floor. And there's a lot of forward flexion in this series at the hip joint. A lot of forward flexion at the hip joint. So just to release any tension that's built up in the front of the hip, we're going to come into bridge pose as a counter pose. So the feet are drawn in towards the body. And they're about 6 to 8 inches apart. I know it's kind of hard to see your feet, but have a sense of the feet being about 6 to 8 inches apart. I used to say hip distance apart, but then a lot of women thought their hips were as wide as their sticky mat. So now I just say 6 to 8 inches apart. It works for most people. Heels drawn in. And just push down into your feet and lift your hips up for bridge pose. Come up to the very, very top of your what's available to you, range of motion. Take an inhale and exhale and lower your hips back down. Just do that a few times. Inhale and lift your hips up. And exhale, hips down. Next time you lower down, pause for a moment. We're going to come back to the movement that we did at the beginning of class with the lumbar spine. And we're going to move into bridge pose using a pelvic tilt. So you'll press your lumbar spine down into the floor, and you'll notice that your tailbone starts to come up towards the ceiling. Now push down into your feet and see if you can slowly creep your spine up little by little, coming until you come all the way up as high as you're able to, coming up onto your upper back, and then slowly lower back down. And as you lower back down, again, try to imagine that you could put each vertebra down individually. As you get to your low back, you'll have to do that pelvic tilt, tucking the tail up towards the ceiling. And then once the hips are down, press the tailbone down and arch your back. And then again, curl up. And curl down. As you come down, press the tailbone down. And one more time, just inhale, roll up. And exhale, down. And just rest. You can stretch your legs out, rest on your back. So this completes our series You can rest for as long as you like. 5 minutes minimum. And then when you are rested, come on up to sit and enjoy the rest of your day with your hips and legs and spine just a little bit more loose and comfortable. Thank you. Namaste.